Hi, and welcome to the I Teed Myself podcast. My name is Matthew Miniman, and this is episode 47, a conversation about Shadow IT. So, today with me, I have Jerome Althoff. He's a good buddy of mine, and not one of my normal guest types, because normally I like to bring in people who have no idea about IT. Jerome is a IT professional, much like I pretend to be. And so, Jerome, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, as Matthew said, I'm Jerome. So Matt understands the zeros and ones really well. I understand a lot of policies and procedures and bigger, I shouldn't say bigger, but like most of my stuff has been doing the policy and dealing with humans as well as employing the technologies. Just the CYA PSA, any opinions or anything I say in here is my own opinion and does not represent any other organization that I work for.
May or may not work for.
No. So I work for the U.S. Army. I've been doing that for quite a while. I've been doing IT for them for the last 13 years, I think, which is pretty awesome. And so when Matthew asked if I could participate in his really fun podcast, I've been listening to it for a long time. I thought, oh, sweet, I get to hang out with Matthew, and I get those sweet, sweet CEUs.
Yeah.
Everybody in the industry knows to love to hate. Anyway.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, when you get a CISSP or a higher level certification, EC Council, C&D, or any of those others, you're required to do continuing education units. And I don't know if the agreement, because I'd forgotten half the shit I read on it, but I don't know if the agreement said that we can't talk about getting CEUs, but this is for CEUs. I don't give a shit.
I don't remember if it did or not, but it's not like it's not known. And
yeah.
Every profession, I thought it was unique to IT, but doctors do it, lawyers do it. I mean, if you actually want somebody to be a professional in the field, they got to stay current and stay giving a damn.
My dog groomer has it.
Yeah, dog groomers do. It's a certain level of professionalism that is pretty slick. And in this case, I get to hang out with my buddies. So,
that's right.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. So, again, as Jerome said, any opinions or likenesses of any celebrities that may or may not exist are purely coincidental and are of the people talking and not of any other organization that may be represented here. So, that being said, let's move on to our first article that we're going to talk about. So this first article, this is an Ars Technica article that came out a couple of days ago, or sometime last week. This is being recorded September 10th, 2024. And this is an article that is detailing just some pretty shitty shadow IT. So the article's title is from Ars Technica: After seeing Wi-Fi network named Stinky, Navy found hidden Starlink dish on U.S. warship, which is so super fun because it's a U.S. warship, you know, the thing that protects everybody, and operational security is not a thing at all.
And the kind of ship it's on is it's one of the littoral combat ships, which are designed to be not stealth, not like your stealth bomber, but very, very minuscule, and like they're not supposed to be emitting on the spectrum, and like you just had a random hole punched through your security and your shroud of secrecy.
Yeah, it's not like you're trying to find a giant fucking building in the middle of a city. Yeah. This is a tiny ship in the middle of the ocean. Not only was it in the middle of the ocean, but specifically it was on its way to the Western Pacific, you know, China, the East China Sea, that sort of thing, right? Where, all of the major military conflicts may or may not occur. And so important to military intelligence is kind of sensitive, right? Yeah. One of the things I found funny on this is, aside from the Wi-Fi name Stinky, but we'll get into Elon's particular humor there later, was that, you know, the Starlink satellite that they affixed to the outside of the boat was actually affixed via tie downs, which, you know, if you're gonna do this sort of thing, at least make sure it's securely fastened, which I guess they did. You know, they're Master Chief, or I don't know who the drill sergeant equivalent is in the Navy, he'd probably be pretty happy about at least that part of it.
Yeah, I mean, did they trim it? That's my question. Did they actually trim the excess off the zip tie? Because that's professional. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you never know. You never know.
Poke an eye out.
Yeah. Well, and so like in an environment like this, where you are specific, where you have a high level of OPSEC, because military operations always, OPSEC is like the first goal.
Yeah, operational security.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Operational security, not to be confused with SecOps, but security operations, which is a totally different thing. But OPSEC is operational security is the most important thing in regards to a mission. Is that correct?
It's pretty damn important. So this violated that, as well as SIGINT, so signals intelligence.
Yeah.
By having an emitter, a bidirectional emitter, they're just broadcasting off the side of your ship. Yeah, sure. People say, oh, satellite, that's just line of sight that's straight up into the sky. Well, it still emanates.
Yeah.
And it's still splashing against the radar absorbing material around the ship. I don't know what that cross section looks like, but you're gonna have some problems.
Yeah, some black bass.
There's a lot of things flying around looking for signals, and you're emanating 24/7.
Yeah,
like it's a bidirectional link.
That by itself is probably pretty bad. The backblast of the EM waves is probably just as bad. But from my perspective, when I look at this, we just got a notification, or we had an article a couple weeks that came out a couple weeks ago that basically detailed that China had gotten access into 4 United States internet service providers backends, and so basically they were able to access this management console called Versa that manages the enterprise level gear that an ISP uses to distribute internet connectivity to hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people, businesses alike, and the Chinese government was able to get into it. And you don't know, as a lower level engineer, if that is possible or not. You have no concept of looking at that, because I just want my Wi-Fi so that I can check my Facebook while I'm in the middle of the ocean, right?
Right, and you want the Wi-Fi so you can stream what you want when you want without any kind of security. Security sucks.
Yeah,
it does. It absolutely sucks, and everybody who is a practitioner knows it too.
Yeah,
but there's a reason the security is there. Sometimes it doesn't make sense, and we do a bad job of explaining why it matters. Sometimes, often, maybe. But not having that, you don't know the transport. You don't know what's going on. You don't know where it's going through. You don't know anything. And EMS, the electromagnetic spectrum, is becoming more and more absolute life and death. You can look in Eastern Europe and see that if you emanate, you die.
Yeah.
So emanations need to be monitored.
Yeah,
Sorry.
That's essentially what's happening in Ukraine and on both sides, Ukraine and Russia. They're able to track troop movements and find troops based on the EMF signatures that are coming out of it. So this is huge. This is a big deal. Now, the other aspect of this is you're also handing off OPSEC. You're essentially handing off OPSEC to a civilian infrastructure, which is not great, right? Like from the military's perspective.
We're getting better about playing with different transports, and Starlink is just a transport. But you need to go into it with eyes open. You need to go into it with architects who understand what's going on, and engineers and understanding. But this wasn't any of that.
Yeah.
This was some people saying, I don't like the network my boss is providing. I'm going to do my own on the side.
Yeah.
That's straight shadow IT.
And I'm going to hand this off to a known stable individual, Elon Musk.
God, can you get us back to Mars already?
Right?
What was up? What happened with that?
Well, and it's obvious that this was a great and professional job, because the stinky SSID was being broadcast. Now, that stinky SSID is actually the default SSID that comes with the Starlink transport system. Elon Musk thought it would be funny to have that because it's an emanation. It smells, emanate, stinky.
Yeah.
The Wi-Fi is stinky.
How much else was default on it?
Yeah. It's a poop joke, and Elon thinks it's hilarious. And in this case, it got bit in the ass. Now, the really dumb fact about this is shortly after this article came out, it was announced that Starlink is actually being provided on all warships. And so there is an agreement. There is going to be an agreement for some official communication to be handed to Starlink.
But that's the transport.
Yeah.
And if you know it and build it into your architecture, you can absolutely put black core routing over any transport.
Yeah. But I'm also certain that that particular type of traffic will be handled separately from the consumer or residential traffic that Starlink deals with.
And when I said black core, it's like encrypting and double encrypting usually.
Yeah.
So does it matter if you put, back in the day, a telegraph line or a U.S. post office? Like if you put something in cipher and put it on somebody else's horseback, then it doesn't matter if somebody interrupts the mail. They don't know the cipher. At least that's your hope. And that goes into encryption. But
Hedy Lamarr would like to argue with that.
Yeah. Whoopsies. Anywho.
So that's the story. Is there anything on this you particularly wanted to talk about? Anything else on this you particularly wanted to talk about?
Starlink is a great system. It is a great transport. The problem is not knowing what is going on and not having an understanding. Like this ship was designed one way, right?
Yeah.
Just like your office building, just like your car, just like your home. You designed your network to some level of willfulness. You know, like some of my family, like, will just get whatever the ISP provides and turn it on. They willfully did that.
That's great.
Yeah.
I don't have to touch it. Fuck yeah.
Yeah. But somebody walking into your house and then putting a thumbstick emitter on the side of your, ISP provided equipment or hooking something into your house, that's shadow IT, and that's a hole in your architecture that you don't know.
Yeah. To explain this to those who aren't familiar with IT, you have to kind of understand it as like somebody walking into your house and cooking all of your food for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Potentially.
And like, they're gonna use, I don't know, my wife hates it when somebody else cooks dinner. Because she specifically planned for dinner, and she bought the ingredients and she wants them prepared this specific way. And so if she's planned for you to cook dinner, that's great. But if you just decide you're going to cook dinner because you want to try to be nice, you're going to fuck with her plan, and that's going to break things up. And that's kind of what shadow IT is. You're going to fuck with a plan. You're going to make shit. You're going to screw stuff up. And because IT just kind of happens in the background, if you're not aware of what's changed or what's going on, it can be very difficult to detect what is causing a problem in the long run. And so the next article that we have here is an article about D-Link routers. And this is specifically D-Link had a remote code execution flaw on a specific brand or specific model of router. And D-Link said, we're not fixing this. Now, good on D-Link for saying, no, we're not going to fix this, because this particular product was out of date. Like it's been sunsetted. It's obsolete. They don't want to fucking use it. They're trying to tell people to go buy a new goddamn router, which is great. Fantastic. D-Link sucks ass, but that's just my opinion. Not shared by the United States federal government, I'm sure. But D-Link chose not to fix this. But so in my world, in the consumer realm, I actually had a client who had a particular business manager come into their office and plug their own router into the wall socket so that they could get their home Wi-Fi in their office, because they wanted their home Wi-Fi in their office. They didn't have to do anything extra. They didn't have to remember anybody else's, Wi-Fi password. They could just do that. Now, that's bad on the network team for not like blocking off that port, and there's a whole lot of technical back end that we can go through with that. But still, this is fucking shadow IT, because if, for instance, this model of router gets plugged into that wall socket, this is now out there for an attacker to find and essentially use as a launch point, as a bot to attack the rest of the network, because that's how this works. And so in a real world environment where you are running with several different functionalities and several people who want to do things, like I want to make my own printer. This is the exact type of environment where you're like, oh, this will get us fucked. So like, it's I don't know how else to equate it, but it's like putting an engine with dynamite lit on it in a car. I don't know.
Well, I don't know where that one's going either. But
there are two towers. All right.
Oh God, that was a great conversation. And that was what 27 years ago. All right,
you make me feel old.
So D-Link, they make fine stuff. They're in the lower end of the commercial side, which is why I think they get so much hate because it's easy to buy them. And people would go. They
get so much hate because they charge $1,000 for a consumer router.
I thought they were lower end than that.
No, they charge. So
they charge $1,000.
The Nighthawk router, it's $1,000. You can buy it from Best Buy. So if you walk in,
I didn't realize that Nighthawk was a D-Link Lexus.
Oh wait, no, sorry, that's Netgear. Fuck.
Yeah,
I'm misrepresenting.
No, D-Link is like, hi, I'm your Hyundai.
Oh God, no, don't.
Not even the nice Hyundai, not the new Hyundai, the old Hyundai. Anyway, but yeah, so I mean, D-Link is out there. Good on them for saying, yo, seriously, don't use these things. We are not supporting them. Like that is a good IT company leaning forward and telling you should probably look at replacing this hardware. And that I like that transparency, but I can think of a couple of stories where D-Link stuff was found in a closet plugged into a network that was broadcasting.
Yeah.
And the technology does not care.
Yeah.
Physics does not care. As we argued the other day, like zeros and ones will pass whatever medium they're allowed to, whatever modulation they're on, whatever copper or wireless, they don't care. So if somebody doesn't listen to the architecture, then you have shadow IT.
Yeah.
Then you have a door on the side of your house that wasn't there that you don't see, and someone's coming in and taking that key ingredient for your wife's cooking, and then you are getting yelled at because that anchovy is gone.
I feel like this is a euphemism for something else. Anyway,
maybe
and with this, it's you have to remember that just because somebody forgets it doesn't mean it suddenly stops working.
Usually not. Yeah.
Because to put this in another definition, if you install something on a laptop and you use it once, let's say you install, I don't know, fucking FileZilla on your laptop and you use it once. Mm-hmm. Well, the problem with FileZilla is that it serves ads and it does a lot of shit that isn't just an FTP client. And we know FileZilla does this because they just openly admit it. Mm-hmm. So, you install it once to get this one particular thing done, and then you forget about it, and it just sits on your machine until somebody walks along, sees it, and says, "Oh, I know how to use that to break your system." Mm-hmm. It messes up your entire thing, and it can affect the rest of your environment if you're in an enterprise environment. It's not just a personal thing; like it can really screw up an organization.
Yeah.
As an example, there was an organization that had a contractor who was essentially 3/4 remote. He worked from his house most of the time, and he had a Mac that he was doing his own stuff on. Like he was a developer, he was a software developer, and so he was doing his own projects on his Mac, and then he had his work system immediately right next to it. And on his development computer, on his personal Mac, he was doing a lot of stuff, and it was really cool. He had his own website and whatnot, but he hadn't separated the networks at all. And so what happened is that on that computer, on his development computer, on his personal computer, he had downloaded malware, and somebody had seen. The attacker who had gotten into his Mac had seen that there was this other computer that was reaching out to his enterprise. Mm-hmm. They grabbed credentials through various means. Basically, I believe it was a man-in-the-middle attack, and they were able to redirect that network traffic to their own server and identify the credentials. And essentially, they were able to take these credentials and hack the entirety of that environment. That organization was LinkedIn. And it was a 600 million person compromise. We're talking everybody's information, and it was into the back end database that had usernames and passwords, all of that attached. And so when if you lost control of your LinkedIn account shortly after 2016, that was probably why, because this one engineer decided that he was going to do his own thing on his own personal system, and it affected the entire environment. It wasn't just like, he probably never thought that could happen.
Yeah, developers do that a lot.
Yeah, well,
honestly.
they're just dangerous enough to be, or they're just smart enough to be dangerous. Wow, I almost almost said
Like,
really think
a
there.
lot of people like to develop on a box they own, machine, a computer, because there's no admin rights. You can install anything you need. You can pull any library you need. You can do whatever you at speed.
Yeah,
But it's also at the speed and confidence of just you.
yeah,
And IT is so hard that if you do it with people, it's really hard to get it to work perfect.
Yeah.
If you do it by yourself, you're gonna fail.
yeah. Well, and
And I don't care how smart you are.
and everybody thinks that not everybody, but a lot of users, people who aren't in IT, think IT is easy because buttons can be pressed and it affects things on a screen,
yeah.
and that cause and effect gives them a unrealistic expectation of
Totally.
expertise. That they're good enough to do this, and that they know enough. And they're this fucking IT thing isn't hard. I mean,
Smartphones have made script kiddies so much worse.
yeah, and it makes them easy targets. And I've covered this before, where like if you give people just enough knowledge to do something, they become comfortable with doing that one thing, and they become so comfortable that they don't realize that they've made a mistake.
Yeah.
That it has a cascading effect in their environment.
Can.
Yeah,
And that's like a very zoomed in shadow IT.
yeah,
That developer shadowed himself and then shadowed the company.
yeah,
I didn't even realize it probably.
yeah.
But because they shadowed themselves and they were myopic on it, then the attackers could pivot and then they shadowed right into LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And that's not uncommon.
Yeah,
It's really not.
It's not. And as another example, this next article that I have pulled up, it's an unpatched AV Tech IP camera flaw exploited by hackers for botnet attacks. This specific attack, so the article is basically AV Tech has produced this IP camera. It was made obsolete some time ago, and this camera flaw was discovered. Basically, shortly after they had made these cameras obsolete, decided they weren't going to work on them anymore. But because they made them obsolete and they didn't patch this, there have been new exploits found to basically create these cameras as botnets. And so where I run into this issue is I actually have a business owner who has these AV Tech IP cameras in their business, and he plugged them in without us knowing. Like, he was just like, I need a camera solution. I'm going to use this. And so he just plugged this in. And then when their network started exhibiting signs of threat and malicious behavior, the investigation had to be deep. And this was a HIPAA covered entity. So when they plugged this in and decided that it was a great idea, they effectively put themselves in position to be audited by the OCR. And have just this entirely huge payment impact on that, because if they had lost HIPAA data on this, if they had lost control of HIPAA data because of this, you're talking about knowingly breaching your own security
To save a couple bucks on camera.
to save money,
Or to save a couple minutes by not talking to your techs.
exactly, and you knowingly breach security. OCR is not going to look kindly on that, and your fine is going to be significantly higher than if you had followed all the rules. So that's kind of how this has an impact.
Yeah, it's like a rush to failure.
Yeah, and
What's OCR, by the way?
OCR, I don't know what the acronym. You can't fucking ask me about acronyms, man. I hate them. I'm not like the military.
Hey,
right?
whoa. Nobody knows what the acronyms means. You want to stall a meeting, just be like, hey, yeah, what are those letters? And watch everyone look around. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So
the OCR is the reporting body for the Health and Human Services Administration.
Okay.
Basically, they're the guys who, when an incident in response to HIPAA data occurs, they're the ones who are looking at it, investigating it, and auditing an organization. So in a HIPAA environment, if you get hacked and you lose control of patient data, you have to report that to the OCR. In Colorado, it is a minimum of 500 records that you have to report. Yeah.
If 500 records are
500 records or more,
exposed or whatever?
Yeah, 500 records or more, then you have to report. And so when you report to the OCR, they open up an OCR audit and they investigate your HIPAA assessments. They investigate your risk assessments. They investigate the whole thing to make sure that you've done what you could to prevent the leak. And then if they find that you've been negligent in any way, they will fine you. And that's kind of just how it is. And it's a government body, and they can pull doctors' licenses. They can stop you from being able to practice medicine.
Can they pull the doctors away from the golf course, though?
Oh, fuck, man. I don't know.
So,
I don't know if anything can.
Because we have the world in our pockets, I decided to let you rant while I looked up the Office for Civil Rights.
Oh, yeah, OCR.
They should definitely go by OCR.
Yeah, OCR.
That sounds silly.
Yeah.
Civil rights.
Yeah.
I mean, I like civil rights.
Yay!
Meaningful look. Anyway.
So the next article that I have is Zixel. It's the same thing as the D-Link earlier, where Zixel has other OS command injection flaws and access points and routers, and Zixel actually patched them. So this was a series of like 7 or 8 different vulnerabilities where remote code execution could be performed on these access points and routers. And Zixel actually took the next step and patched them.
Whoa.
The problem here is that in order to fix the problem, in order to remediate the vulnerability, you have to actually patch your fucking shit.
Well, you have to hear about the patch and then do something about the patch, right?
And so if you're just a regular person who's not paying attention to this sort of thing, you'll never know about this. You'll never think to patch your Zixel router.
Well, what's the difference between a major, minor... what's the third one?
Informational? What?
No, the major version, the minor version, and the iterative version.
Oh,
or whatever.
yeah.
Like, do people notice that? Like,
build version.
How many? Yeah, build version. Yeah. How many versions back are your patches?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. There's a whole bunch of numbers. It looks good. Well, those periods between the numbers really mean something.
Yeah.
If the first number, that's the major. If that first number is like 1 digit off, you're in a bad place. If it's more than 1 digit off, patch that shit now.
That's right.
If it's in the last couple digits, like there's one period, then a couple of numbers, and another period, and it's in those last couple of numbers, you might be okay. But generally, you should patch or stay within one patch or so of everybody else.
Yeah. Now, not everybody follows this format, but the version build pattern, major, minor, and build number, a major version change incorporates new functionality and features to whatever you're working on. The minor build is enhancements to each feature or functionality of that build, and then the build number is the hotfix or vulnerability patching number of that build. That's typically how it's formulated. Yeah. Now everybody chooses what the fuck they want to believe, but as a or how they want to do it, because everything's made up. This is all made up. Everybody has to understand.
And the points are fake.
Yeah, everything is made up here, and the points are faked. So developers do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah.
And don't have a standard, which is fine. It's totally fine. It's fine.
You can't see, but he's flinching in pain right now. It's not fine. It's not fine.
I'm gonna have an aneurysm. So with this, it's if you are a normal user and you don't have the knowledge of IT to perform an update on a router, and 2, the knowledge that you should, you're kind of fucked when you're performing tasks. And so performing shadow IT, doing your own IT in an environment where you have the ability to reference a technical resource is a problem. You're really just screwing yourself. Now, in small businesses, I understand. Some small businesses can't even afford an IT guy, and that's fine. You have to kind of have to pull yourself up by your own fucking bootstraps, right? Like that's the thing.
I mean, I would say they think they can't afford an IT guy.
Yeah,
and there's very few businesses now. There's very few anything human in Western society or anything you want to go like too big on that doesn't involve IT. hippies have smartphones. I mean, like, IT is freaking everywhere.
Yeah.
And if you can't afford a full salary guy, I know you work for an managed service provider. And honestly, that's a really good concept. Or co-ops. I've seen co-op concepts too. But like, phone a friend, find a Reddit sub.
Yeah.
But don't just ignore the IT around you.
The other way to skip the whole complexity of an IT environment is to just go and buy an all-in-one solution if you have to, like fucking CenturyLink, Lumen, Comcast.
They will wrap
Cox.
their loving arms around you for $1.
They will do it all. They'll give you everything you need.
Honestly, so does Apple, if you can afford it.
Yeah, and then all you have to do is follow their instructions and don't do anything else.
Yeah, well, yeah.
That's the problem, is that if you dig in and want to do something else and try to do it yourself, you're going to get into shadow IT, and you're going to you may circumvent controls that were put in place, and that could potentially put you at risk. So the other side of this whole thing is this last article, which is an article about an ex-engineer in Missouri basically took control of an environment and held it for hostage. And so what actually happened was this engineer was getting fired. He decided he was going to take control of the network as he left the company. So there's a lot wrong there. But as he left the company, he took control of all these systems, and then down the road, after he was fired, he took control and started deleting servers from the infrastructure and kicked the actual IT engineers out of the organization. And so this is an example of shadow IT on the other side, where you have an IT person who's doing things the wrong way. This is one small example. He tried to ransom these guys for $400,000. No, $750,000, or 20 Bitcoin, which is what it was at the time. So this is an example where not only does shadow IT happen inside of users doing shit, this is also shadow IT in IT. Mm-hmm. So, who watches the watchers is a big one, is a big frame. And what we face in IT, in security specifically, and I'm sure you know this, is specifically in the military. You guys are probably under the highest amount of scrutiny. I mean, you have to go into a SCIF and you get nothing. You get nothing inside of a SCIF. You throw your watch away, throw your credit cards away. Don't even bring in your fucking glasses.
You do get to wear a loincloth.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah.
But you have to have somewhere to put your rank.
Very Greek.
That's the oil, actually. That's a completely different room.
Oh.
Anyway. Shadow IT covers a huge umbrella.
Yeah.
And there's malicious and there's not malicious. Mm-hmm. There's just sometimes not even updating the documentation to be considered shadow IT, because 5 years from now, what you did might be shadow IT now. Like you said earlier, you put some software on your computer to do one thing and forgot to uninstall it. It was legitimately installed into the environment. It did its job, and then it just sat there waiting for input. It's always listening.
Yeah.
It's always waiting to do its job. And someone can come along and say, "Hey, I got a job for you." As they stroke your mustachioed face.
Not mine.
Not mine either. I wish I could grow facial hair, but didn't get issued. Anyway.
So yeah, and in this whole environment, one of the things that we have to constantly be on guard for is that malicious person. If you hire somebody who you can't trust, or you have people who are just being dumb or whatever, you need some way to identify and respond. Mm-hmm. And those tools need to be put in place. And so, one of the things that we always hammer on in security, specifically when we're talking about new solutions, or talking about bringing in new folks, is we need to see logging. We need to have logging. Non-repudiation is a fucking thing.
It's incredibly important.
Yeah, and non-repudiation, for those who haven't had that defined before, is the ability to hold somebody accountable for their own actions. Basically, they're not able to say that wasn't me.
Yep.
Non-repudiation is in effect the rule that says every user has their own username and password, and that username and password is secret and safe. And so when you're doing things inside of an IT environment, and specifically like this guy, you have to, everything you do is logged. All of those activities are logged, and all of those things are tracked and identified. And the way this guy got caught is, one, he got greedy and started asking for a shit ton of money. That's problem number one.
Well, yeah. He asked them for money, yeah.
Yeah, well, and he was committing crimes while he's committing crimes. You don't do that. You just don't fucking do that, you know. But one of the things that got him caught was the fact that he created this shadow administrator account using his administrative account. And basically forensics was able to go back and track the trail of activities to identify him as the guilty party. And so when you audit things like this, it's very important to do that. Now, what you do with that information, what you do with those logs and your retention period, all kind of matters. How your organization is formatted and what your requirements are, and if there's any illegal shit. I mean, the military's basically got in perpetuity for log retention, essentially.
No. I mean, yeah, it depends. I mean, it always depends. It depends on what your risk level is. And, like, we were talking about this before the episode started. Like, the military and all the federal government, and I would hope all governments, employees, be aware that you have a fiduciary responsibility for that tax money. Like, you have to show that you are doing your job and you're doing it to the best of your abilities with what you have. So, like, people get pissy about it, but the log shows that you're doing your job.
I've already traced the tax dollars and everything. All of my tax dollars are going directly to you.
I know. I spend it so well.
Oh, God damn it.
I really, really appreciate your tax money, Matt.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
It saves me ice cream sandwiches and just, all sorts of fun
son of
things.
a bitch.
I also like to support causes you hate. So your tax money. It makes me happy.
God damn it. So yeah, no, that's legit, and your records retention is important to understand, but not it isn't just about what you or how long you keep those records. It's also what you do with that information.
Oh yeah.
Because like one of the things that I hammer on with my guys is we have to alert on the logs that we're receiving. We have to be able to identify the threat as it occurs. And so creating some sort of alerting scheme when something is out of place is key. AI is a really good source of that now. We're developing AI engines that can analyze millions of events and identify the anomalies within, which is fucking fantastic. But you actually have to do that fucking job. Yeah. Like, that's not just something that you get to brush off. Previously, it was literally hiring a security analyst to sit there and stare through logs. That was the bitch position inside of the security department.
Well. Humans don't do that well at all. We suck at Where's Waldo?
Yeah,
but AIs don't. They find Waldo all the time, and sometimes they find Waldo when he's not there.
Yeah, hallucinating.
But that's what security professionals are for. Like the human side of it has to keep getting better and more experienced to be able to take that information from the AI and tell somebody what the hell this actually is. Oh, this looks like unexpected behavior. You just hired a new person who's an idiot.
Yeah, and
we're still teaching him, so it's actually not unexpected. For about 3 weeks, we expect this person to make a bunch of IT mistakes, and we're just going to watch them, not necessarily like in depth over their shoulder, but if they try to access the bank vault, then maybe we'll be concerned. But otherwise, they're going to stumble around. They're going to go to the wrong printer, the wrong file share.
Yeah,
that's not unexpected. That's humans learning their place in their new job. I don't know how that's back to Shadow IT though.
So but it's
sorry.
You're just identifying. You're identifying the patterns of behavior that you can quickly identify shadow IT from the IT perspective. So if you have a malicious IT actor from within, this is how you can spot them, is by these alerts. And this company that got hit by this attack, by this dude holding their servers ransom, they could have potentially headed this whole instance off at the pass had they had better alerting inside of their own systems.
Yeah.
I know I have a specific alert for all of my organizations that alerts me whenever an administrative user is created. because it's important to know that.
Yeah.
It's important to know when administrative users are added. And when I get those alerts, I also get who created it, when it was created, and so I can go back and detail the trails.
Yeah.
And try to find this person. And so shadow IT, from an IT perspective, can be difficult to spot, but you have to do the work to defend yourself against that. And the logs are created in such a way, and you have to, as a security professional, one, it's very difficult to say this, but you kind of have to be above reproach, because the instant you come into question, your motivations are put into question. The whole thing goes to shit. So when I design my systems, I design them so that even if I were to turn shadow IT, thousands of people would be alerted before I could get to the next step.
Yeah.
I would have to dismantle this in such a way that it would not work, and people would start noticing immediately. And that is how you have to craft your systems, to protect people from even yourself, because you don't know.
Yeah,
That's just the thing. You don't know.
Yeah, trust but verify, 100%. And that's a great example of what Matthew brings to the table, is he knows himself and trusts himself and makes sure that you can trust him. And after knowing him for most of my life, I trust him. But professionals, but professionals shouldn't feel, and I've run into this before, where you're like, hey, cool, I trust you, but could you verify your credentials? Could you show me your badge? Could you sign for this packet? Could you do any of these things that, like the chest double, that, like a handshake, like any number of things where you just validate each other is professionalism.
Yeah.
And you should design your network to not just protect your reputation and your income, but the people who rely on you's reputation and income. And that's brilliant. I love that.
Zero trust infrastructure.
It means I can't exploit you anymore.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, zero trust. Oh God, we should go into a whole rant on that.
But not this episode.
That word. Oh my. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, all right.
Concept. Anyway.
So I think we've beat this dead horse as much as the military has. So I think we're good to close this episode out. Is there anything you want to plug? Anything you want to talk about? Pluggables?
The only other thing I was going to say, something you'd said earlier triggered me on it. You can only be betrayed by someone you trust.
It's true.
And it keeps me up sometimes, because if an admin has any impression of not being trustworthy, or if someone decides to go rogue, you can only be betrayed by the people you trust, but you have to trust somebody.
That's
right.
It's like,
Anyway, lovely final note. Thanks, everybody.
All right, guys. I think that's all we have time for today. I hope you guys have a great day.